What do you do when the numbers say everything's fine but your gut says something's off? Yarden Fields had that exact thought as he stared at the quarterly report on his office desk. Sales were steady across his 11 grocery store locations, costs were in check, and customer reviews on paper looked fine. But something didn't sit right. He'd bought the chain 7 years ago from a retiring family grocer and turned it into a clean, community-based brand. Now, after stepping away from daily operations to focus on expansion, he felt distant. Too distant. A week ago, a longtime supplier casually mentioned during a lunch meeting, "Your Willow Creek store hasn't placed a regular order in over a month." "Thought you went with someone else." Willow Creek was one of his quieter stores, nestled in a suburban pocket of town. The report showed normal inventory costs, nothing flagged. But if the store wasn't ordering from their usual supplier, where was the stock coming from? Yarden didn't want another filtered report or a sugar-coated district manager call. He needed to see it himself, quietly. He called in a favor from an old friend in wardrobe and disguised someone who worked in film, and by the end of the week, he had a full transformation. Bushy beard, glasses, slight limp in his walk, and dyed hair. He looked nothing like the clean-cut CEO in the company intro videos. No one at Willow Creek had ever met him in person anyway. It was one of the first stores he acquired, but never visited. The manager there, a guy named Rick, had been hired after the buyout and only dealt with corporate through email and the occasional district check-in. Yarden showed up on a chilly Monday morning with a fake name badge that read, "Greg Trainee." "First day?" asked a young woman at the front, holding a clipboard and wearing a bright blue fleece vest. "Yeah, Greg." "Just transferred from the North Hill location," Yarden said, keeping his voice raspy and low. "Needed something closer to home." She nodded. "I'm Odessa." "I'll get Rick." Rick came out a few minutes later, mid-30s, tall, sharp jawline, wearing a Bluetooth earpiece and scrolling through his phone without looking up. "Trainee, great, just stock dry goods for now." "Odessa, show him aisle 4. "I've got calls." And just like that, the CEO of the company was now stocking cereal boxes and canned beans. By noon, Yarden had already noticed a few things that didn't add up. Shelves were a mess, some products were outdated, others weren't even in the system label-wise. A customer asked Odessa where the organic oat milk was. She sighed and said, "It's supposed to be here, but no one's checked stock in the back since last week." Later, when Yarden asked another worker, a quiet but focused guy named Ben, how often they did inventory checks, he whispered, "Every Thursday. Supposed to." "But we haven't done one in 3 weeks." Yarden raised an eyebrow. "That normal?" Ben looked over his shoulder. "Not really. Rick says we're managing fine and skips it, says we don't have the staff, but we're fully staffed. He just doesn't want to stay late." Yarden nodded slowly and kept working. Things were adding up now, or rather, not adding up. He stayed on for the next few days. Rick barely spoke to him unless it was to bark something vague, zone the snack aisle, or straighten the end caps. The floor staff were young, mostly high school or college kids, except for a few older employees like Odessa, who clearly held the place together. She multitasked nonstop customer questions, break schedules, even covering the register when needed. On Wednesday afternoon, Yarden offered to help Odessa bring out a pallet from the back. That's when he saw it. The back room was chaos. Pallets stacked haphazardly, some boxes torn, others mislabeled. He noticed cartons of almond milk from a brand he'd never approved. Next to them were boxes of off-brand products he hadn't seen in any supplier logs. No barcodes, no records, just handwritten stickers. "Where's all this from?" he asked. Odessa frowned. "Some local distributor Rick found, said it's cheaper, but I don't think it's tracked properly. We've had returns because the labels didn't scan or the dates were off. I told him we should report it." "Did you?" Yarden asked. She hesitated. "I emailed district last week, didn't hear back." Yarden's jaw clenched. He took a breath. He couldn't act yet. He needed more. That night when the store closed, Yarden lingered near the break room as Rick and another supervisor, Melissa, chatted behind the office door. "We're not doing inventory again, right?" Melissa asked. Rick laughed. "No way, waste of time, I just fudge the numbers. District never checks, and as long as sales look good, no one cares." Yarden's stomach tightened. He backed away before they saw him. The next morning, Odessa found him early by the loading dock. "You okay? You seem off." "I'm just tired," he said. "But thanks for asking," she smiled gently. "You're a good worker, Greg. Most trainees don't care." That hit him harder than he expected. This woman was holding the store together while management played games. He made a quiet promise to himself. She wouldn't be left behind in the fallout, but first, he had to see how deep this thing went. By Friday, Yarden had seen enough to confirm what he suspected: this store wasn't just mismanaged. It was quietly drifting into dangerous territory. Products were being sourced off record, basic procedures were being ignored, and worst of all, people like Odessa were being buried under responsibilities without any meaningful support. That morning, he arrived early again, this time before the lights in the store had even flickered on. A pale blue dawn lit the parking lot. Ben was already outside, unlocking the receiving gate and pulling up the steel door with a slow grind of metal. "You're not on early shift, are you?" Yarden asked, stepping out of his car with a to-go coffee cup in hand. Ben looked surprised. "No, but Rick texted me last night asking me to come in early cause the order's coming. He said we were short today." Yarden handed him the coffee. "Short again?" Ben took the cup, but didn't answer immediately. His eyes were tired in a way that didn't come from a single early morning. "Feels like we're always short lately." The truck arrived not long after, but it wasn't the usual delivery company. No logos, just a plain white box truck with no registration visible. The driver didn't offer a bill of lading or any paperwork. He just wheeled out 3 pallets and left. Yarden glanced at the boxes. No clear vendor branding, no internal tags, just more of the same handwritten stickers. Ben raised his eyebrows. "We're supposed to check these in, but Rick told us not to bother, said it's handled already." Yarden nodded slowly. He didn't respond. There was nothing to say that wouldn't give him away. A little after 9, the store opened to customers. Odessa was already running the self-checkout area and prepping the day's schedule. Yarden was assigned to the dairy aisle, something he hadn't touched since Monday, and he welcomed the routine. As he worked, he overheard a conversation between 2 women near the eggs. "I bought oat milk here last week and it smelled off. I threw it out." "This time I'm going to the co-op down the street," one said in a low voice. Her friend nodded. "The produce didn't look great either. I don't know what's going on with this place." They didn't see him, but he saw them, and he saw the way Ben, 1 aisle over, paused when he heard it too. Around lunchtime, Odessa called Yarden over to the office area. She looked uncomfortable but composed. "Rick asked if you could cover the register for a bit," Melissa just called out. Yarden followed her back to the front, where 2 lanes were open, one of them manned by a teenage cashier who looked overwhelmed. Customers were already lined up past the impulse racks. "Do you know how to run transactions?" she asked quietly. "I've used a register before." "Just point me to the basics." She gave him a quick rundown, and within minutes, he was scanning groceries and bagging items like he had done it 100 times before. It wasn't about knowing the buttons, it was about paying attention. People noticed when you cared. The line eased after 20 minutes. A woman approached with a cart full of frozen meals and a toddler tugging at her coat. As Yarden rang her up, she glanced at his badge. "You new here?" she asked. "You're the first one who actually said hello to me today," he smiled politely. "Greg. Just started this week." "Well, Greg, you're doing better than the guy who yelled at my kid last time we were here." Yarden's expression shifted slightly. "Yelled? Yeah, tall guy with a beard, said we were blocking the aisle. My son was just picking out cereal. I almost stopped shopping here." She paid and left without further comment. Yarden didn't need to guess. Rick was the only one who fit that description. Once the rush died down, Yarden asked Odessa, "Has Rick ever been reported by customers?" She looked at him carefully. A few complaints, yeah, mostly about attitude. I flagged it in our weekly reports a couple times, but nothing changed, he nodded slowly. And Melissa, how long has she been supervising? About 8 months. She started out decent, but lately she only shows up when she wants. She calls out a lot, and when she's here, she's usually in the back office texting. By mid-afternoon, Melissa finally showed up. She walked in with a paper coffee cup and sunglasses still on, despite the store's fluorescent lighting. She didn't greet anyone, didn't check the schedule, just disappeared into the stockroom. Yarden followed her after a few minutes, pretending to grab a restock cart. She was leaning against the wall, scrolling through her phone. "You all right?" he asked casually. She glanced up, barely registering who he was. "Yeah, just catching up on messages." "Looked like the front was slammed earlier. You didn't come in for that," she shrugged. "Wasn't my problem, I wasn't on the clock yet." "But Odessa said you were scheduled at 10. Melissa rolled her eyes. "Schedules change. I cleared it with Rick." Yarden didn't respond. He just walked away, pushing the cart toward dry goods. That evening, with the last customers filtering out, Rick finally emerged from the upstairs office. He waved Odessa over and handed her a clipboard. "Close out the registers and prep the deposit. I've got a dinner thing." Odessa took the clipboard silently. Yarden was nearby, sweeping the front mats. Rick turned to him. "You, Greg, make sure the trash bins are emptied and the loading docks locked down. Got it." Rick left without a word to anyone else. As Odessa pulled bills from the register drawer, Yarden stepped beside her. "Do you do this every night?" She gave a short nod. "Unless I'm off. Melissa doesn't like handling cash." He leaned in slightly. "You ever been offered a promotion?" She paused. "Rick said there wasn't room in the budget. That was 6 months ago." Yarden watched her for a moment, then said, "You ever think about leaving?" She looked up at him. "Sometimes. But I care about this place. I've been here since before it changed hands. Feels wrong to walk away." He didn't say anything more. He just helped her finish the count. That night, after locking up, Yarden didn't go home. He sat in his car with the engine off, staring at the darkened storefront. He had seen enough. The rules were being ignored. The people who cared were being taken advantage of. And the customers were starting to notice. But one thing was clear: he couldn't just quietly fix it from behind a desk. He pulled out his phone and called his executive assistant. "Clear my Monday," he said. "I'm going back to Willow Creek, and I'm not going in as Greg anymore." Monday morning arrived colder than usual, the sky a dull gray that hung low over the parking lot of the Willow Creek grocery store. The automatic doors swished open just before 8 as employees filtered in for the day. No one noticed the black SUV that pulled into the far corner of the lot. Inside it, Yarden sat in the back seat, dressed in a tailored charcoal coat, clean-shaven, hair back to its natural tone. He looked nothing like the man who had spent the last week breaking down boxes in aisle 4. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a slim folder, and handed it to the man sitting beside him, his director of operations, Lionel Reeves. "Everything's in there," Yarden said. "Payroll discrepancies, off-record suppliers, failure to log deliveries, and a detailed account of management behavior. Odessa's the only thing keeping this store from falling apart." Lionel flipped through the documents, his brow tightening. "You sure you want to do this now? We can call in district support, bring in HR." "No, I'm doing this in person," Yarden said, stepping out of the car. He walked through the front doors without pause. The store was just starting to come alive, carts being lined up, produce being misted, register lights flickering on. Odessa stood near the customer service counter, clipboard under one arm, quietly giving instructions to a new cashier. She looked up, her face registering confusion for a split second before recognition dawned. Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. Yarden gave her a small nod, then turned to the intercom by the customer service desk. He pressed the button and his voice carried through the store. "Good morning. This is Yarden Fields, CEO of this company. I'll be meeting with the entire staff in the break room in 5 minutes, management included." He let go of the button. The silence that followed was immediate and total. A produce clerk froze mid-cart push. A stalker near the frozen section looked up from his scanner. From the upstairs office, footsteps thudded against the metal stairs. Rick, descending fast with a phone still in hand. "Mr. Fields?" Rick said as he approached, his tone suddenly bright. "This is unexpected." "We weren't informed, I know," Yarden said calmly. "Break room. 5 minutes." Rick opened his mouth again, but Yarden was already walking away. The break room felt cramped with everyone packed inside, about 20 employees shoulder to shoulder, some leaning against the vending machine, others perched on table edges. Rick stood near the back beside Melissa, who looked like she hadn't expected to be awake before noon. Odessa stood closer to the front, arms loosely crossed, eyes steady. Yarden faced them, hands at his sides. "I spent the last week working here under a different name," he began. "I stocked shelves, cleaned spills, unloaded trucks. I worked beside many of you. I saw how hard some of you work and how little support you get. I also saw behavior that violates our core values, things that have gone unchecked for far too long." Rick cleared his throat. "Mr. Fields, if I may." "You will not," Yarden interrupted, eyes locked on him. "This isn't the time for excuses." He turned to the rest of the room. "I want to speak plainly. Some of you have gone above and beyond. Odessa, Ben, your work ethic, your reliability, and your care for this store did not go unnoticed. You've kept things functioning that were never your responsibility in the first place." Ben looked stunned. Odessa's posture shifted slightly, but her expression remained unreadable. Yarden continued. "Others, however, have failed not just the company but your own teams. Melissa, your attendance record over the past 2 months is unacceptable. You've missed more shifts than you've worked and made no effort to assist staff even when present. You're being placed on immediate suspension. A formal review will determine if there's a future for you here." Melissa's face flushed. She opened her mouth, but Yarden didn't give her the chance. "Rick," he said, his tone flat, "you've not only neglected your duties as store manager, you have actively misled corporate through falsified reports and unauthorized supplier use. More importantly, you've created a culture of disengagement and disregard for both customers and employees. That ends today. You're terminated, effective immediately. You'll be escorted off the premises after this meeting." Rick's jaw tensed. "You have no idea the pressure we're under at this location. You show up for a week and think you understand. I understand enough to know that lying about inventory, ignoring customer complaints, and pushing your workload onto others isn't pressure, it's failure," Yarden replied. "And I don't tolerate it." He turned back to the room. "This store deserves better, and starting today it gets better." He motioned to Lionel, who stepped forward with a folder. "Odessa, I want to offer you the role of interim store manager, effective immediately. A formal training process will follow, but for now you'll lead this team with the support you've always deserved." The room stirred. A few employees exchanged surprised looks. Ben gave a single nod, more to himself than anyone else. Odessa's voice was quiet but steady. "I appreciate that. I won't let the team down." "I know you won't," Yarden said. "We'll begin restaffing support positions this week, and I'll be assigning a new district liaison who will work alongside you to stabilize operations. We'll also be conducting a full audit of supplier partnerships, inventory accuracy, and customer feedback." He paused, then added, "If you've been working hard and honoring your responsibilities, you have nothing to worry about. If you haven't, I strongly suggest you reconsider your approach." The meeting ended with no applause, no handshakes, just a quiet, heavy shift in the room's atmosphere. As employees filed out, Rick was escorted to the front by security, offering no resistance. Melissa walked out behind him, still silent. Outside, Yarden handed Odessa the keys to the upstairs office. "You'll need these," he said. She took them carefully, then looked at him for a long moment. "Why did you do it like this?" "Come undercover, I mean." "Because I stopped trusting filtered reports," Yarden said. "I needed to see the truth, and I did." She nodded once. "Then I'm glad you came." He watched her walk toward the office, the keyring clutched tightly in one hand. Back in the break room, Ben stayed behind a moment longer, wiping down the table where the meeting had taken place. Yarden approached him. "You've got good instincts," Yarden said. "You ever thought about a shift lead position?" Ben looked surprised. "I didn't think there were any spots open." "There are now," Yarden said. "Talk to Odessa, she'll set it up." Ben nodded, then returned to his task without another word. By noon, the store was running with more focus than it had in weeks. There was no miracle turnaround. The gaps were still there, the staff stretched, the systems needing repair, but for the first time in a long time, there was clarity. Yarden didn't stay long after that. As he walked back to the parking lot, Lionel caught up to him. "You think Odessa can hold it together until we get more help in?" "She's already been holding it together," Yarden said. "Now we're just making it official." He paused at the edge of the lot, looking back at the storefront. "This can't happen again," he said. "We build these places to serve communities, to give people work they can be proud of. If we stop paying attention, it all rots from the inside." Lionel nodded. "You gonna check the other stores?" Yarden's expression didn't change. "One at a time." He got into the SUV and closed the door without another word. A week later, Willow Creek was still running lean. With Rick terminated and Melissa suspended, the vacuum in leadership left Odessa shuffling between front-end coordination, scheduling, and manager duties, all while training the two newly promoted shift leads. One of them, Ben, was adapting fast, but nobody was under the illusion that things had stabilized. They hadn't. Not yet. Yarden knew better than to expect instant results. He returned early that Thursday morning, this time dressed in a navy pullover and slacks, no disguise, no fanfare. He parked in the rear lot, not wanting to draw attention. His plan wasn't to hover, but to observe how things were progressing without interference. He trusted Odessa, but trust didn't replace accountability. Inside, the store had a different energy. No one was rushing, but there was a quiet urgency. Register lights glowed steadily, the floors had been swept, and the produce section, while still limited in variety, was clean and labeled properly. Ben was at the end of aisle 8, reviewing a delivery checklist with a clipboard, carefully matching each item to the stockroom sheet. Yarden stepped beside him. "Morning," he said. Ben glanced up. "Didn't expect you back this soon." "I said I'd be keeping an eye on things." "That wasn't a metaphor." Ben nodded, then turned the clipboard to show him a discrepancy. "We've had 3 shipments this week, all from approved vendors, but a quarter of what we ordered didn't arrive. I contacted the supplier. They said demand's spiking elsewhere." "Let me handle that from corporate," Yarden said. "You're doing the right thing logging it." Ben tucked the clipboard back under his arm. "Odessa's been running on fumes. I've been staying late to cover breaks so she can eat. She hasn't said anything, but it's catching up to her." Yarden didn't respond immediately. He started walking toward the front, Ben following behind. At the service counter, Odessa stood with a headset on, jotting down notes from a phone call. Her eyes were heavy, her posture a little slower than usual, but she never stopped writing. When she hung up, Yarden leaned on the counter. "You've been here every day since the transition." She didn't look surprised to see him. "Yes, you've got to pace yourself." She gave a short breath through her nose. "I'll rest when the store runs without me needing to fix something every 5 minutes. He studied her closely. "How many hours have you clocked this week?" 58. "I'll keep it below 60. "That's not sustainable, it's temporary." Yarden considered her words. "By tomorrow, we'll have a temporary assistant manager from one of our stronger locations. Her name's Claudia. She's been with us for 6 years. Knows systems, knows operations. She'll report to you for the interim." Odessa blinked. "You're bringing someone in as support, not to replace you. You're managing, but no one leads effectively if they're running themselves into the ground." She tapped her pen against the counter. "I appreciate that. Have you had time to review any applicants for the open floor lead?" She nodded. "There's a part-timer, Jacob, who's been consistent. He's young, but he's been showing initiative. I was going to sit down with him this afternoon. Good, make sure we're not just filling holes. Promote people who care. At that moment, a customer approached the counter, holding a paper bag with a receipt stapled to it. Her expression was tight. I need to speak with whoever's in charge. Odessa stepped forward. That would be me. What's the issue? The customer opened the bag. Inside was a container of pre-made pasta salad, slightly open with a faint sour smell. I bought this yesterday. It was already spoiling. I called and someone told me it was fine, that it must have been my fridge. Odessa's brow furrowed. Do you remember who you spoke to? It was a woman. She barely listened to me, said the item was non-refundable. Odessa took the bag and set it aside. That's not our policy. You're right to bring it back. I'll refund you and log it for inspection. I'm sorry for the way that was handled. The customer still looked irritated, but some of the tension eased. Odessa processed the return quietly and handed her the cash. After she left, Yarden turned to Odessa. Who was handling calls yesterday? Probably Emily. She's only been here 2 months. I've had to coach her a few times. She's not rude, just dismissive. Where is she now? Break room. Yarden walked back with Odessa beside him. In the break room, Emily sat at a table scrolling through her phone, earbuds in. She looked up as they entered and quickly pulled the buds out. I need to ask about a customer call yesterday, Odessa said. You spoke with someone about a return on deli salad, Emily shrugged. Yeah, I remember. She was kind of dramatic. I told her it was probably her fridge. She got mad. You told her the item was non-refundable, Yarden said. Emily leaned back. I didn't say that exactly. I said it's hard to return food once it leaves the store. That's not our return policy, Odessa said. You need to confirm with a lead before refusing refunds. And you need to treat concerns seriously, even if you think they're exaggerated. Emily crossed her arms. I wasn't rude. Yarden stepped forward. Dismissiveness is still a form of poor service. You're getting a formal warning. If we get another customer complaint tied to your attitude, you'll be suspended. Emily's expression shifted. Seriously, for one call, Yarden didn't flinch. One is a warning. Repeated failures are not tolerated here. Understood, Emily muttered a quiet yeah and looked away. Back at the front, a delivery truck had just pulled up. Ben jogged out to meet it. Yarden watched him for a moment, then turned to Odessa. You think he's ready for more responsibility? He's focused. Sometimes too focused, but I trust him. Keep building around that. At noon, Claudia arrived. She was in her early 40s with a calm voice and crisp posture. Odessa gave her a quick tour while Yarden observed from a distance. Claudia asked pointed questions about scheduling software, vendor timing, and staff retention. She didn't talk over people, she listened. Afterward, Yarden pulled Claudia aside. First impressions, store's undersupported, but the core staff has potential. Odessa's sharp. She just needs backup. Give her that. You're here to stabilize, not command. Claudia nodded once. Understood. By mid-afternoon, Yarden took one last walk through the aisles. He passed Jacob, the young part-timer Odessa mentioned, carefully facing jars on the lower shelf. How long you been here? Yarden asked. Since last spring. Started as a summer job, kinda stayed. You like it? I didn't at first, but Odessa treats us like we matter. That changed things. Good, keep showing up with that attitude. It'll take you far. As Yarden left the store, Odessa caught up to him in the parking lot. I don't know what this store is going to look like in 3 months, she said, but whatever it is, it'll be better than what it was. He looked at her. That's because of you. This place didn't fall apart because you held it up. She nodded once, no bravado, just a quiet acknowledgement. And if you ever feel like it's slipping again, Yarden added, you pick up the phone, no more silence between the floor and the top. She extended her hand. Yarden shook it firmly. Then he got into his car and drove away, leaving behind a store that wasn't fixed, wasn't perfect, but was finally, undeniably turning in the right direction.